You're listening to Living Out Loud with my mom, Michelle Flamer. Yep, she's a flamer and proud of it. Get ready to learn about queers in your communities doing great things every week.
What does it really mean to belong? Hey, everybody, welcome back to Living Out Loud. In this heartfelt episode of Living Out Loud, Michelle sits down with Dani Gagnon, therapist and founder of All Kinds Club, to explore identity, emotional safety, and the courage it takes to create spaces where people can fully be themselves. Dani shares the deep personal story behind launching All Kinds Club and the gaps she saw in the world that she felt called to fill. Together, Michelle and Dani are going to unpack what true belonging feels like in the body, why so many people struggle to live authentically, and how healing begins when we allow ourselves to be seen without shrinking. They also dive into love beyond romance, what healthy emotional safety really looks like, and the tender truth that sometimes we build the very spaces we once needed. This conversation is warm, honest, and deeply affirming. If you've ever felt unseen, misunderstood, or like you had to edit yourself to be accepted, this episode will be for you, because there is room for all kinds, and your story deserves space. Do you love that?
Michelle, that intro is so cute.
Thank you.
I absolutely loved it.
Oh my God. I have some guests that are saying lately, because I'm like in a flow with it right now. And people are like, can you text that to me? So when
can I use it in my bio?
Yeah, you totally can.
So cute.
And it's just fun for that. What is going on in your world at the moment? And Dani, I want to know, and I'm sure everybody else wants to know, will you tell us your coming out story so we can learn how you became a you?
Yeah, I would love to. So yeah, I'm just busy here trying to create this queer therapy company. And it's been a time to be a queer person starting a queer therapy company, that's for sure. My coming out story. I actually came out a very long time ago. I'm 38 right now, so I came out when I was about 15. But it wasn't my own doing. My parents actually found my journal and read my journal, and it's not a pleasant story in how it began. However, I had a very different kind of coming out story than a lot of people, because aside from my parents kind of struggling with it at the time, I had a lot of support around it at school. I was one of the only out people in high school. I had a great high school experience, lots of friends, was head of student council, went to university and was a lesbian and out there too, and had a great experience there too. So I had a lot of really positive experiences around my coming out, even though my family part was a bit rough and started out on a really odd note.
You're all really started out on an odd note, but
yeah.
And then you just drop it. You just leave us hanging, basically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my parents ended up coming around to it after some time. I think I'm an only child, and I grew up in a city in Canada called Oakville. It's basically it's the richest city of Canada. I grew up in a lot of privilege in a lot of ways, and in some ways it worked against me, because Oakville is very cookie cutter. If you could imagine Edward Scissorhands suburbia, it's that. And as you can see with the way I look, it's not so much a fit. And so a lot of things about my gender or my sexuality definitely rubbed my parents the wrong way. But over time, we've managed to repair the rupture. So that's been really satisfying.
For our listeners, just so you know, if you're not seeing a video of this and you're just listening in the car, Dani does not look like your typical therapist with piercings, with the bleached blonde hair, with literally.
I'm a little edgy.
Yeah, I was going to say, you look like you should be more on stage at a rock concert, right? With your tats and everything. But I think it's kind of badass. And the fact that you're creating such a niche experience with your clientele, I really do think, honestly, your audience, and your audience is you, basically. So, when you think back, in university, did you think you would be doing this? Were you always like fascinated with psychology, and sort of how did that, curiosity come out for yourself?
Great question. I mean, I got my degree in criminology, so I definitely was like interested
That's what
more
I
in
was
the
going to
like,
college for.
oh, cool.
Freaking love criminology. So
So
freaking, yeah,
interesting, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I was like obsessed with serial killers and true crime
yeah.
and all that stuff. And then when I found out what it required to like go to law school and like do all this other stuff, I was like, ugh, no way. And just started working at a skateboard shop like in Toronto, like a little skate rat kid. And I was like in bands, just trying to like make my rock and roll dreams come true. But
What'd you play?
I
I see the
played
drums behind you.
drums, guitar. Yeah, I
Awesome.
play everything. So at that time, I actually created a marketing company. It was like a digital marketing. I've always been like savvy on Instagram and Facebook and stuff. And at the time, no one was really doing digital marketing. It wasn't like a thing yet. And so it actually blasted my career. Like I became a prof at colleges and I was creating marketing programs. I became a speaker. My company started working with like all the top TV shows in Canada. And I had a marketing career for the last 15 years, like untrained basically, but it really honed my skills in communication. After COVID and after the TV strike that occurred, since I had been working in television for so long doing marketing, I just felt very much like tired of the roller coaster. And I went back to my degree and wondered, like, what else could I do with my life that I could do with a criminology degree
Yeah.
that would make me feel a bit more inspired? And I was like, oh, true. Yeah, I could become a therapist. And I've been in therapy my whole life. It's been a pivotal part of my journey from that experience that I just shared with my parents. Like, they put me in therapy when I was in high school because I was super struggling with what was going on. We may have had disagreements around things, but they always very much cared about like my mental state. So
Mhm.
I've been using therapy my whole life, and I was like, maybe this would be a really great experience for me to find a way to make an impact. And now that I've become a therapist, I realized the impact for me was really working with queer and trans people and making sure that that impact landed exactly where I wanted it to land.
Yeah, I really love that you are doing that. And I think having a deeper understanding of the queer mentality is so important, because I do think even with wonderful, like here in the States, I don't know if it's up there, but helloalma.com. Do you have that up in Canada as well?
I don't think so, but I've heard of it.
Okay, yeah. So helloalma.com is just a platform. It's a website that helps you connect your, like, what insurance you have, and then being able to like filter through to find like an LGBTQ plus, a therapist, if they're working in different modalities, like in internal family systems, which I love.
CBT. Look, IFS. That's
Oh,
cool. Okay.
oh yeah, yeah. No, I mean, EMDR, EDMR, this all MEMDR, like somatic healing,
Mm.
trauma, and things like
It's like
that.
a
And
gay psychology today, basically. Yeah.
it is, well,
Cool.
it actually covers straight and gay. But the
Cool.
cool
Yeah.
thing is the filters there, at least for queer folks here in the States, we can find a therapist that, at least, whether they just claim to be an ally or if they actually are queer.
That's exactly the part that I realized was a huge struggle. Like, basically, Psychology Today is another website that a lot of
Yes,
therapists use, right?
yes.
When I put up my Psychology Today profile, it asked me if I was a man, a woman, or non-binary. And it
It's
caused a bit of
missing
an
out on a real big group.
I had a bit of an existential crisis here because I was just
Yeah.
like, well, can I put all of them? Like, and then I started realizing that, like, and my marketing brain went off, that I'm like, and when I'm trying to find the clients that I want to work with, I'm like, okay, what if there's like a woman who's in a straight relationship that wants to talk to another like queer therapist about like maybe the feelings that she might be having? I'm like, she would probably look for another woman. So I don't want to just put non-binary because I'm also not non-binary. It just became this huge complex thing that I was like, why is this so limited?
Okay. I can never tell when you're going to stop
I
talking.
know. Sorry. I'm just like, it's actually wild though. Like,
It
it's
is. It's
2026, you know? Is
no,
it?
it's utterly ridiculous for
Yeah.
these large companies who don't have a clue. So that's why I like Hello Alma a little bit of that better than the
Cool. That's good to
Psychology
know.
Today
Yeah.
site. Yeah. So if you have any US folks, you can pimp it out
Send
today,
over. Cool.
Yeah, send over just for that. So I love that you saw a void. I've always been a big fan of filling voids. I think it's really important. That's why I created this podcast. I pivoted from what I kind of was doing before to in order to accentuate and also highlight queer voices and people who are doing good in the community across the country and Canada, So it just really excites me because I I just love therapy.
I mean, I love it too.
I know. I mean, I really do. It's really interesting. I got divorced around 3 years ago
Hmm.
and almost 4 years ago. And I really started down this really deeply intentional therapy journey finally. Like not just bandaging things up anymore, but really like tapping into stuff. And then I added in the spiritual side of things. And it's interesting, the friends that I started to like call forth all love to verbally process like I do.
Makes
And I
sense.
yeah, I mean it's just super fun, right? And then it's like we also realized how enjoyable the messy middle really can be
Yeah.
because that's where the gold is. So
Yeah.
when you're talking to your clients and what are two of the bigger topics that the overarching, that trend themes are coming up for you lately in
Yeah. I
therapy?
mean, I think internalized shame is like one of the biggest things that queer and trans people are dealing with right now. It's just like a lot of us and them have grown up in households where they haven't been seen or accepted for like who they are identity wise. And it's also being attacked like politically and in all these other spheres. And it's creating people who don't trust their sense of self, and maybe don't even have a connection to their sense of self. So building that connection to self and like understanding like this IFS language, like understanding your parts and like where they were born and what they're trying to accomplish and trying to connect to them, and having compassion for them. That's like major number one theme. And then I would say like something that's coming up for a lot of people is just like dealing with anxiety. Um,
Yes.
Lots of anxiety, lots of stress, lots of feelings of not feeling safe.
Yeah. Yes.
And that for especially like again trans youth has been pretty dominant as of a theme, and it's really like unfortunate.
I've been really lucky lately. I just had a great conversation and I published that episode a couple of days, like a couple of weeks ago, but it's with the fairness campaign out of
Mm,
Kentucky and how much they focus on queer youth as well as the Trevor Project. I had the
mm.
opportunity to talk to them as well.
So
And
cool.
again, such just trans youth is their North Star right now because
Really, yeah.
everything that's happening in politics and all that sort of stuff. What do you think about this idea of belonging? And before you go into the belonging piece, because I've been really going into this inclusion or belonging. But before we do that, I want you to tell people a little bit what internal family systems is, because maybe that's the first time, and I don't want to just say IFS and then
Sure.
assume that everyone understands what IFS actually means.
Great. Yeah, I can give a little quick
Yeah,
rundown. So, internal family systems, and I am not officially trained in IFS,
I
but
was going to
as
ask
a
you. That's
therapist,
cool.
we all kind of know about parts work. It's
Yes.
just simply the idea. It was developed by Richard Schwartz. It's the idea that we are not just a one mind, but we have parts in our heads that are parts of ourselves that have been essentially like created in moments of trauma. There's this beautiful, I was just in this sex therapy training workshop a few weeks ago by Tammy Nelson. And she described the creation of parts as this like experience of shame in yourself, and your self breaks off, and that shameful part goes to hide away. And then that chunk of you that's left like experiences trauma, and a part of that breaks off and goes away until you're left with such a small piece of self and all these like little parts of yourself that are showing up in ways that might be like perfectionism or
Hmm.
alcoholism
Yes.
or people pleasing.
Yep.
And these parts are
Yes.
all trying to accomplish something good. So Richard Schwartz's famous saying was just like, there are no bad parts.
Yep,
And
and
it's
that's the name of his book too. So
yes,
for people
exactly.
who might want to like check it out, it's a fantastic book. Actually,
Yeah.
the Audible is even better because it's his voice,
It's his
and
voice. Yeah.
he goes into talk. He actually shares recordings,
Mm-hmm.
in live, moments. So it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of nice
Yeah.
because I think one of the things that I loved is about parts work is that we are in our age right now. Like, let's just say Michelle is 57 years old right now. I am the chairman of the board. And I sometimes have to tell my younger parts, I'm in charge. It's okay. They can relax. Like, I got them. But it is an interesting way to sort of tap into different parts of trauma and also realize that we are multidimensional humans,
Yeah.
and it's not just one fix for one thing. It's not.
No, yeah, and that's why actually the movie Inside Out, even though it's about feelings, I like the kind of description and way that they have the mind in that movie, and the way
Yes.
that there's different kind of characters taking over the desk.
Yes.
It
Yes.
is kind of this beautiful children's view of parts work in a weird way, and I love using that description of like who's at the desk with my clients when we're moving through some parts work.
I love that idea of pulling the great, I mean, because it's such a beautiful
So
cartoon.
good, yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I could watch it over and over again. It's really sweet. I really did. I do learn something great from that cartoon every time. Like,
Every time.
yeah, see, one or two, it's all good. But so let's talk about belonging a little bit because I think people in the world want to belong, but they also kind of mismatch it with inclusion and inclusiveness. And I don't think they're really the same in the way that I kind of walk through the world. That's the way.
No, it's an interesting thing to think about. Like, I almost look at community and belonging as two separate things personally. So
Mhm.
when I think about like belonging to a community, you can be part of that community and not see anyone at all from that community. You're still part of that community. So if you're trans and you have no trans friends, you're still a member of the trans community, even if you do not know a single trans person in your hometown. But belonging is different. It's a bit more personal. It can often feel like you want to belong in your family, you want to belong in your friend groups, you want to belong to a cultural experience, you want to belong to a friend group and have a sense of feeling understood. And I think that is like a fully different experience.
Yeah, than just like the inclusion part. Because, like you said, being inclusive or being part of a community, it's a huge umbrella. There's like all these other little parts to it, right? And
Yeah, you
I
could be
just think,
included and not feel like you belong.
yeah, which
Yeah.
is, I think a lot of people don't really think about in those two ways, But
Yeah.
as a therapist, you know, when you're seeing people struggle with identity, you mentioned shame, but is it coming from internal header, like,
Yeah.
or is it coming from their internal parts, or is it coming from their like religion and from family?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's coming internally because of the external shames that began the process, right? So
Mm,
like we look at like childhood and like what created shame in their childhood, and usually that carries on into adulthood. We don't just have, unless you're in therapy, going to EMDR, processing trauma. A lot of people are carrying the shame from their childhoods or from their teenagehood into their adult life, and not really like just because they have moved to New York and made a lot of friends, they maybe aren't able to access or know why these triggers are coming up or why they're still feeling so down on themselves, even though everything technically around them looks like it's better.
yeah. What are some suggestions around dealing with shame or anxiety? Those two pillars, sort of your north stars at the moment that you're
Hmm.
really digging into.
Yeah.
Any cool little tips you found that really work?
I mean, definitely find a therapist. I think
Yes.
like having support from someone who isn't afraid to, I mean, I think a lot of people think therapists are just like validating. It's not always just that. Like finding someone that can like see the patterns and gently challenge you, but still always be there in like a supportive way is like one of the best things about therapy. but also talking about it. I think not enough people talk about their shame or things that they feel resentful over, kind of like these feelings that we've labeled as like icky, if that makes sense. A lot of them are kind of like things that we never talk about growing up, or things that are easy to talk about, saying you feel embarrassed about the behavior you had the night before at a party, or saying you feel shameful about something that happened a few years ago when you were a teenager. When do we ever have conversations like that with our friends?
Yeah.
I think encouraging these kinds of like conversations of depth and having the hard conversations with friends, even about things that have happened in that friendship or happened in the relationship, can help teach this idea of like rupture and repair between two people, which I think is like a really beautiful and intimate thing to happen.
Have you heard of the cards? There's like cool decks to ask questions. Don't We're
Mm.
not really strangers. Have you heard of?
I haven't heard of that, but I love a deck with questions. I think it's so
Yeah,
fun. I think people got really obsessed with Cards Against Humanity, and I think it was a miss in terms of which card game we should have been obsessed with.
agreed.
I love a card game that prompts questions. I know I have one that has like cool relationship questions and stuff. It's just a really great way to get to know people when you can't really think of things yourself.
Yeah, I recently saw one that was geared towards the queer community, and I'll have to find it. But
Yeah, that's so
I'm
cool.
thinking like you might be one of those really good people to like actually create a deck that
It's a cool
helps,
business idea. Yeah, a like
right? That
therapeutic queer deck.
Yeah, could and 52 questions, like make it, it doesn't have to be 100, questions.
Love it.
And also I love they have one that's called a wild card, and it's an activity. And
So
so it's
cool.
like draw each other, or draw, you could do something to the effect, and now I'm just spitballing, but because
No,
I
that's
love,
so cool though. I love that.
yeah, it's like you could have an activity where how do I see you, and how do you see me?
Wow.
Because I think a lot of times, what I'm in a new relationship, and first secure relationship that I've ever been in,
Congrats.
full on happy. She's a sober recovery coach. She understands, loves therapy as much as I do. And it's really fascinating. We've been getting to know each other through these decks.
Mm,
And I think having a way of creating belonging within those decks is really important. And
mm.
I really feel like it's one of those things where I can hear myself and I can hear me on your side.
Oh, really? Do you want me to turn it down a bit?
Yeah, maybe I think that
Is
helps.
that better?
Yeah, a little bit.
I
Yeah.
was like
And
blasting. This is my ear damage from drumming for years. I'm just like, I need more volume.
no problem. Um, no, and I just love these decks for that reason. It's just so freaking fun.
That's cool. Yeah, I would really recommend too if anyone's looking for a like cool book to do with a partner. There's a book called Eight Perfect Dates by the Gottmans. They're like relationship
Love the
therapists.
Gottman
Yeah,
Institute. Gotta love
you
them.
got it. And they're very queer friendly. Like they've included queer
Yes.
people and culture in a lot of their experiments and stuff. And this book is great. It has a lot of really interesting questions that you probably wouldn't ask someone about money, dreams, sex, like all kinds of things. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where the next level. Like we've got you, we've got Jillian Turecki, we've got Sabrina Zohar. There are like all these amazing, therapists out there, the holistic psychologist. I think really making, like, normalizing attachments now. Now everyone knows about attachments, right? Everyone
Hmm.
knows about enneagrams, everyone knows about human design. I think it's like very interesting since COVID to see this like trajectory and like roller coaster of basically, I want to say like sofa therapist,
No,
it's
it's
like,
true. And it's changed the way we do therapy. If you could imagine me like starting a new session with like a 23-year-old, right, who like comes in and I'm like, oh, do you know anything about attachment theory? And they're like, yeah, I'm anxiously attached. So now I'm like, okay, well, I don't actually know anything about this person yet. We just started and they're telling me they have anxious attachment. So now instead of like doing my normal kind of intake where I have to like break down all this stuff and figure it out myself, I'm now also needing to challenge that maybe they're not anxiously attached and needing to figure out like where they've come up with that idea or why they think they might be that way. it might be because a partner told them they thought they were. And
Right.
after, 10 sessions, I'm like, I don't think you have anxious attachment. You were just in a shitty relationship.
Oh my God. And that's exactly what I was trying to get to too, is that there's so many beliefs that we carry forth from those old
Mm-hmm.
relationships. And until you have someone mirroring back in a healthy way, like, who told you that? Like, I love unpacking that piece and being like, oh, I'm excited to like basically squash all those beliefs. It's like, it's just really fascinating. But how many people are like afraid to lose themselves in those moments? They're afraid to be vulnerable, and not like say the thing either.
A lot of people, yeah. And I think a lot of people are also like scared to go to therapy and be challenged. A lot of people kind of want to go to therapy. And I see all these funny Instagram videos actually of people being like, some people's therapists must be like this. And then the videos them being like, yes, you're right about everything. No, your life has been so hard. And I'm like, I mean, those therapists must exist out there somewhere. I am certainly not one. I always tell my, new clients, if you don't, I'm like, I'm neurospicy, I'm a little blunt and direct. If you don't like want me to call out a pattern, probably let me know on that day because I will.
I mean, I think that's really great. I think pushing people a little bit in a really kind, gentle way
Yeah.
is really the best way. It's just I think the way that I really appreciate my therapist is she gets really curious. She'll like lean in a little bit and go, "So when you do that, like
Like, tell me more about that thing that's in there.
ex-
Yeah.
exactly." And I'm kind of obsessed with Dr. Orna. She's my hall pass.
Orna is like such a magical creature. I actually avoided watching couples therapy for a really long time, even though all my queer friends were like, you have to watch couples therapy because I didn't want to bring someone else's vibe into the couples therapy sessions I was doing. I
Yeah.
really wanted it to be like me. And then when I finally watched couples therapy, I was like, I'm obsessed with Orna. She is such a magical human and
She's a
has such a
freaking unicorn.
she has a great ability to hold space for all sorts of couples, and it's been really inspirational watching it. Actually, yeah.
Yeah, if you watch the first season, that dude Mao, I mean, everybody loses their shit over him. It's hilarious because,
I was watching it and like making my partner was watching with me, and she was like, "You
yes,
keep on making therapist sounds," and I was like, "I
well,
know," because
because it is like, it's just so like awful when the way he speaks, but it's comes from a lot of trauma. And I think once you understand that, you want to get curious. And
you
that's
do,
why it
yeah.
was
Well, that's
fascinating
the
watching
therapy
her
thing.
unpack it.
Yeah, it's the therapy thing that's like we were told in school, like no matter who you have in front of you, you need to find a reason to like them. And
Yeah.
at first, we were like, "What?" And now I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's what, you even see in Orna, and I think it's like season 3, she has like a client that she just is like, I don't even know if I can work with them.
That's
And
right.
her colleagues are like, that's your bias. Like, you need to push through and give them empathy. And I was like, yes, this is exactly what we're supposed to do.
Now that leads me to another question because I freaking love the show and I love when she has her time with her, like her leadership in a sense,
Yeah.
like her own therapist to
Hmm.
like unpack
Her
the stuff.
supervisor. Yeah. Yeah.
Her supervisor, who's freaking amazing,
So good.
Victoria, I think her name is
Yeah.
Victoria. And but I love in season 3 and 4 when they start doing the group, the
Hmm.
colleague, the peer group,
Hmm.
and it's really lovely because there is someone from like every freaking
Hmm.
genre, right? And I think it's really, I love the different perspectives. Do you have anything like that for yourself?
Yeah. So in Canada, it's like we legally have to have things like supervision in place. And they actually track our like also like in Ontario, where I'm from, we have the like a specific college we have to join that is very strict about our hours, our ethics. It's why actually like psychotherapy isn't like it's like not a registered term in the United States. But the term in Ontario and various provinces, it's very strictly regulated. So we're one of the most regulated provinces anywhere. And because of that, our therapists have to go through a certain number of hours of supervision, and extra workshops and all kinds of stuff, even after school. So I have weekly supervision right now. I also go to group supervision, and I speak with colleagues frequently where, even at All Kinds Club, part of the magic of kind of why we created the team we did is that we wanted to create a team that, if I'm working with someone BIPOC, obviously, for those
Yes.
not those listening, I am white. If I'm working with someone BIPOC who was like okay with working with a white therapist, but who's having a specific issue, I can always like speak to a colleague about, their like
Their
race,
experience, if they're
their
African American.
culture.
Right.
Yeah, something that I might be having bias about. And similarly, like one of my like cis, female therapists might ask me a question to help one of their trans clients that they're having a hard time like understanding. So having that kind of variety within our therapist load, it gives us kind of the opportunity to have like colleague support.
Well, that's similar to Dr. Warner because remember when she was having issues around the COVID
Hmm.
episodes and talking about Black Lives Matter with that beautiful Black couple
Hmm.
who had really relevant feelings around all of it, very valid. I mean, and
Super valid.
me being white and reading White Fragility and really like not seeing color, and then having my Black sister-in-law say, "No, we want you to see our color.
Yes.
We just don't want you to treat us differently because of it."
Hmm. Hmm.
And I was like, "Oh,
Yeah, it's an
hi,
awakening
dummy."
moment.
It's
Yeah.
like, "Okay, dummy, here I am." It's
It's
like,
definitely like it's been super interesting, like working at All Kinds Club. We have really pushed to be BIPOC affirming, and which has been like extra trainings, extra like meetings, this meeting with certain colleagues to make sure we are like treating things the way we should. But another thing is just by calling out, like in my place, I call out my whiteness always in first session, as soon as I work with anyone who is not white. And I always want to ask them to control or lead like what they want, what they need. If they feel like there's bias, I call out my bias. It's about creating like a really open relationship with integrity. And then I make myself do the work and education and never have someone else like explain it to me, because it's not their job. It's my job as their therapist.
yeah, no, I love that. And so when you think about what healthy love looks like, what
Hmm.
does it look like from your where you sit?
Healthy love. Oh man, have you read All About Love by Bell Hooks?
I don't know if I have. No, I don't think
Added
so.
to the list.
Okay.
I like looking at love like an action rather than a
Hmm.
feeling. And this idea that like if we choose to love rather than just feel love, it offers like a lot more intention, and has more impact. I think that's how a lot of queer people want to be loved. We've grown up with parents that have said like, "But we love you. We want what's best for you," and therefore the words of love haven't really had an impact. We want the action over the word, or the feeling. Um, yeah, so I think like that's what it means to me.
I love that. What do you think about, and I call it the U-Haul effect?
Mm.
What's your thoughts on the U-Haul effect? I'm just curious.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think like the idea of U-hauling is such as like an interesting lesbian trope.
It is.
I have fallen like I'm guilty of it for sure. But when I think and break down therapeutically like why it happens, and then I saw this podcast recently by this person who is like saying that like lesbian relationships are toxic and all this stuff. I feel like it's like this whole thing, the U-hauling, the toxicity, it's just a big misunderstanding from like a cultural patriarchal perspective of like that woman, like a man and a woman have a more calm and balanced relationship. And then,
Right.
when there are two women together who are maybe more emotional, maybe have PMS or PMDD, maybe there's like more openness and more dialogue and more like okayness with discussing feelings. There is going to be more conflict, or there's going to be more move-ins sooner because people aren't scared of jumping into something. I just think there's so little research and so little understanding of what is actually happening in like sapphic relationships. That the whole U-Haul thing to me is just like this giant, like it's a misunderstanding about what's actually happening.
Yeah, for me, the way that and the way that I call it the U-Haul effect is really in the sense of two people get together, they feel totally connected. They're like, oh my God, you read my mind. You can read my, it's that high dopamine,
It's the ideation
it's,
phase.
it's, it's the fix,
Yeah.
exactly. But what happens for me, like when I see people doing it, or the way that I look at it in a larger, I don't know, in a more, I don't know, granular, or I don't know, just a different perspective, or the way that I'm looking at it through my lens, is that we forget to be friends first. Like we forget to like sit in it, and we were talking about those decks, like getting to know one another. And what happens for me is I see my friends basically getting into these relationships, getting the U-Haul, out or whatever, and they're moving in too soon. And then 6 months down the line, they're like, God, I didn't even know you, because they're like falling in love with potential.
With the idea of people, instead of
instead of like really knowing who they are. Because I have a good friend who's the lesbian curiosity coach. Her name is Samantha Fox, and she's one of my best friends, and out of New York, LMT, and created all of this around later in life lesbians. And I think it's really important. I think lesbians don't do this enough, or maybe the queer community doesn't do it enough, is become friends first, like really build a foundation of friendship. I feel like it's harder than to like just skip out on your friend. You know what I mean? You're really getting to know someone from a deeper perspective, and then moving in later when like the dopamine is a little more
settled.
calm. Yeah, and you're able to
It'll
make
definitely create less chaos. I think
Yes.
my view on it is like, if people want to U-Haul, that they are prepared and can tolerate the after effects of jumping into something so quickly. So like,
Right.
I don't think I'm a therapist, so I'm neutral on everything. But for me,
Yes.
I'm always like, can you handle, or can you tolerate like what could happen from doing something so quick and fast? Like some people can handle the ins and outs, and it doesn't rock their system, and other people get like insane heartbreak, and then they're completely like, I never want to do this again, and then they just do it again 6 months later. So I think for me, it's really like, are you the type of person that can handle those big ups and downs?
Right.
Do you want
The
a
fact that
long
it may not work out because
yeah
of how fast you're going.
yeah
Right.
do you want a long lasting relationship? And if you do, it might be worth pumping the brakes a little bit.
Yeah, it's just interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you called it the All Kinds Club, the All Kinds Club, which is funny because I see AKC and I think I was a dog trainer and a canine cop in the Air Force. So I'm thinking of like the dog, it's
That's
like the
so
AKC.
funny.
But I don't know why it just, but I mean, and I just love
Michelle, did
animals,
you
but
see our art on our website?
it's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's by a New York like Black trans artist named Grimes, like Theo Grimes.
Yeah.
I am obsessed with their work. So we were so lucky to be able to work with them.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I love the idea of the All Kinds Club. So tell me where you came up with the name. How did that come about?
Oh man, my business partner and I, so my business partner Steph, owned the marketing company with me as well. It is like a classic lesbian story because we were once dating and engaged, and split up. And then we managed to keep our friendship intact, as classic lesbians do, and continue running our marketing company together. And so when I decided to go back to school and like continue all this, I was like, do you want to come with me on this journey and like start something else new? Our marketing company, which is still running, is called Bay Communications, so BAE Communications. It was a little play on some millennial terminology. It was before anything else communications instead of before anyone else.
Yep.
So we were like, and our brand colors were really cool. It was like mustard yellow and pink. And we were always kind of like, everyone in the industry was like, you guys are so cool. So I was like, well, we got to do a cool thing again. Like, I don't want to be like a therapy company with like a tree logo. Sorry to everyone with tree logos. I just wanted to like attract the people who were like maybe outcasts or outsiders or who had blue hair or who like didn't fit the bill or like of what was normally seen as a therapy client. And so we really like leaned in hard to Grimes's colors and let them really like come up with a color scheme for the main art. And then we designed the website around that. And really thought of like the All Kinds Club as it being more of kind of like, the like club, like who wants to join us in this cool little system where we all band together and create a new kind of community.
I love that. What's your favorite part of what you're doing right now? What gives you the most joy?
What gives me the most joy? I love when like my clients have these little like micro moments of success and start feeling like I see the changes in front of me. When you work with a client for like 8 to 12 months and you see them changing, like session to session, it might not be noticeable, but over that longer period of time, it's so rewarding. It's also really rewarding, like working through the hard stuff with people who aren't making the changes and to just feel like you're a safe place to land regardless of them, not budging. It feels like a gift to have that trust in people.
What would you say to some people like who are listening today are like, I've never gone to therapy. I'm so scared to see what's underneath all of this. I'm really scared to like, tap into the hurt.
Yeah.
So how would you kind of say, hey, look, this, what would you say to them to get them to like kind of open
Think
their
about it.
brains? Yeah.
Well, first thing is like, what a gift to be able to talk for one whole hour just about yourself. I don't think people realize like when you talk to a friend, there's a certain sort of back and forth that happens. And in therapy, you have this amazing opportunity to literally talk about anything you want. You could be talking about the new Taylor Swift album. It doesn't matter. You are the focus of attention. And what a like cool thing to get someone who's just completely interested in you for 1 hour. So my next part of that is like, you can let a therapist know that you're not ready to get into hurt, that you want to talk about lighter stuff. And that is totally okay too. Like most therapists are there to meet you where you're at. We're not here to poke and prod and like force you to dive into your deep trauma. If you want to, talk about the later stuff first for 6 months before you start feeling that trust build, well, like we're totally okay with that. And a therapist should be okay with that. They shouldn't be poking and prodding if you're not ready to open up.
I freaking love that answer. I really do. And I want to ask you, like, is there a younger version of you that needed the All Kinds Club?
Oh, Michelle, this is exactly what I've made it for. This is like my own therapeutic journey in a weird way, I've always, this is so odd, but I love all the therapists I've had in my life, but I've pretty much always had these like white corporate, like cis lady therapists, Do you know what I mean? Like they all kind of look
Yes,
like Mel Robbins.
totally.
And it's really odd that I've never
Did
felt,
we have the same therapist?
yeah, probably. I've never though like questioned it. Like my whole up until this year, I've never been like, man, I wish I could find a therapist that I wouldn't have to explain what like a stone top was to, you know? I've never thought about it. I've always been like, no problem. Here's all my information. Here, I'll explain like my weird queer stuff to you. No worries. And now I'm like, oh my God, how amazing would it have been for me to have like a me when I was 13? Like, I think it really would have had much more of an impact on me in a positive way. And it probably would have taken a lot less time to get where I got.
I'm thinking what a gift you are. And so obviously you're licensed in Canada. Do you work or talk to to Americans? Can you, like in a sense of a coaching sense, or
Yeah,
are
so technically, like, no, I'm only working in Canada. However, I am with the National Speakers Bureau, so I can work with like corporations or other clinics to talk about like training or queer culture or like queer therapy, all that kind of stuff as well. So in that space, I can work in the US, just not as like a therapist. But we are partnered with like a few other therapy clinics in the US. So if you do need therapy, you can feel free to reach out to our Instagram account at All Kinds Club. And we will try our darndest to find you a queer therapist somewhere in the world. If that's something you need, we'll use our resources to try to find you someone.
I love all that. That's so awesome. Are you ready for a little rapid fire?
I'm ready. Hit me.
You're always ready. I love this. Okay, coffee or tea? We'll start off easy.
Coffee. Yeah, coffee.
How do you take it?
Like with a little hit of cream.
Okay.
I'm not
Tim,
an oat
are
milk
you going
person.
to Timmy's?
No, never. Never Timmy's. I don't know. Like the Canadians that go there are not my breed of Canadian. I don't know.
No, it's kind of like me. Like I don't go to Dunkin' either.
Dunkin'.
It's like that kind of thing. It's just
Yeah.
so similar. Therapy myth you'd love to bust.
CBT.
Oh, interesting. Say more.
I just think
I'll pull
that
an Orna on you.
sure, yeah. Say more. Tell me more about that. I think for people who don't know, cognitive behavioral therapy, I think is like overused with queer people who are currently living in trauma, and trying to reframe your thoughts when you are currently being traumatized is not useful.
Give us a real world example of that. So someone listening.
Can I use Jurassic Park? Is that
Sure,
easier?
whatever
Yeah.
you
So
want.
let's say the people in Jurassic Park are like in the kitchen hiding from the velociraptors, right?
Yes.
And they're like, oh man, I'm really worried I'm going to get eaten by a dinosaur. And if a therapist was there and was like, let's try to reframe that thought. What other thought could you come up with about the dinosaur that wouldn't be one that you were going to get eaten? It's not helpful.
Right.
There's a dinosaur in the kitchen. So yeah, another example would be like, I don't know, trans kid living at home with their Trump supporting parents, feeling terrified, going to therapy, and the therapist being like, let's do some CBT work to help you feel like less anxious. And this might sound like it doesn't happen, but you'd be surprised how frequently therapists reach for CBT for people who are actively living in trauma.
Yeah, that definitely does not bode well. And I love your answer.
Thank you.
A word that describes your younger self.
Edgy.
Ooh, a word that describes you now.
Independent.
Okay, I like that. Boundaries are blank.
Important.
Mm-hmm. They really are.
I don't know what other word could go there.
No, I'm telling you, it's true.
Necessary.
Yeah, necessary. And I think it's important to delineate, like boundaries aren't meant to keep people away. They're meant to keep people near but safe.
100%. Yeah. Well, I love the Gottman. Like Gottman has this really amazing idea of like you being in a house and like that house has doors.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like just the doors aren't open all the time. Right. You can choose to open the doors, but usually
you can use your
lock.
Ring app and see who's walking up. Like
100%. Yeah. You can like even install a screen door if you like really want.
It's true. I love that. No, that's great. A song that feels like your life right now.
Ooh, okay. I don't even know if I can really answer this because I listen to like the most outrageous metal all the time. So it's going to sound
everything. That says a lot about
I know, but it's going to sound like I'm like currently like in pain. Maybe I'll just say one of my favorites right now that maybe is reflective of the political culture currently. And it's a song called Fearless by a band called President.
Okay, cool. Introvert or extrovert recharge?
I'm an introvert.
Which is hard to believe. You said you're a little neurospicy, so I kind of
I perform well in front of people.
Yeah, there you go. You're well masked.
Yeah.
I got you. Do you have a favorite comfort show?
I'm not a show rewatcher. But I love all reality. So I'm like Summer House, Real Housewives, like Below Deck, any of that
Love
stuff.
is Blind.
I struggle with the men. I like literally get like, oh, like my body is like, oh, I just can't do it. Can you do it?
I love Love is Blind. No, I
do you?
I watch it for the psychology of it all.
I know, but Michelle, oh my God, I often think about how they could do like a lesbian Love is Blind. And it's just like in my mind, when I try to imagine it, it's just like a shit show.
Well, that's the way Ultimatum was, a total shit
That's
show.
true.
I think
Yeah.
you should be helping cast any of those. I think you would be great at that because you'd actually pick people who
How
might
shit
know how to.
show are you?
Yeah. How much of a shit show can you be? No, what, and I want to go back to your music choice for a minute because you listened to it. And the visual that I kind of got was when I'm not a big like rock like heavy metal, like I can't do it.
Mm.
But it feels like there's a lot of distortion in it, which
Mhm.
means that there's for you because you're creative, like truly at your gut, being marketing and the way that your brain works and the neurospicy bit, it kind of feels like there's just so much going on up there, much like how the music sounds to me when I hear it.
Probably, yeah. The stuff I listen to is like my partner likes metal as well, but when she listens to the stuff I listen to, she's like, it's way too complicated and I can't figure out what is going on. I'm like, I don't know why I love it so much. But yeah,
Yeah, it's
maybe
kind of like with people who listen to, that rave kind of music,
EDM,
like
yeah, yeah.
EDM. Yeah, it's like I have a hard time with that too. I'm more of a yacht rock kind of girl, but so finish the sentence. What does living out loud, or answer the question or whatever, but what does living out loud mean to you?
Living out loud to me means like standing up for who you are and not bending for your identity.
Yeah, I love that. Dani, I am so glad to know you now. You're a treat in this world.
Thank you so much. So sweet.
Yeah, well, you're awesome. I mean, we need more queer therapists like you in the world, and I love what you're creating, and I hope you keep finding things because I think this it's nichey, but I think, I mean, in a business standpoint, right? Like it's a very niche, but there's so much there. There's so many people who need help.
There's a
So
lot
it's
of therapists right now, so it it makes sense to be niche in this therapist world. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I really appreciate you being out
Thank you
there
so
and being
much for
such.
having me on.
Yeah, it's fun to talk to you and I really appreciate you.
Anytime.
Yay.
Awesome.
If you liked this episode, please hit the follow button and remember, sharing is caring. Until next week, stay proud, stay loud.